It basically kept all of the good innovations of Warzone 2, such as getting overkill by default in Warzone. You don't have to run a perk, you can just have 2 primary weapons. Being able to buy guns at buy stations, and that's a good innovation. We kept it. But we did not keep most of the bad. So we left behind AI in Warzone. We left behind strongholds. We are live, boys and Nicole. Welcome to the Dropshot Call of Duty Podcast, episode number 466. My name is Casey, also known as Razinon. Today I'm joined by Tanner, and we've got 12 days, brother.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the overlay says.
We are creeping up, man, on the release, of course, of Black Ops 6. And in light of that,
BO6, I like to call it.
BO6, yeah, that's a clever one. I should start using that. And in light of that, being so close to the next game, we are doing, as promised today for this episode, Modern Warfare 3, a year in review. Wow.
Oh, wow. We're doing it.
A coveted, much anticipated episode, and there's a lot to say. So we've done these before. We didn't do it last year, but I believe we had done it for the preceding year, possibly. If not, definitely the year prior to that. And what we're going to do is what we've always done. So we've broken this episode down into 3 sections: the good, the neutral / mixed bag, and then the bad. And we are going to go in that order. Now, within each category, no particular order, but that's the broad kind of structure we have here. Another reminder, this is not going to be or meant to be an exhaustive list of everything. I'm not reviewing every single facet of the game. I don't have the time, patience, or mental bandwidth to possibly do that. So we're not doing that. We've written down what appeared in our little brains, which is a good metric for how impactful those things were, at least to us. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And, you know, as another little caveat, we didn't play much multiplayer. So a lot of this, the vast majority of it, is going to be related to Warzone. Because that's mostly what we played. But
yeah, doesn't mean multiplayer is bad, though.
Yeah, it doesn't mean multiplayer was bad. That's true. And multiplayer is going to come up. But primarily, this is going to be through the lens of the Warzone integration, basically. Yeah. So, with that said, besides that, we will have a MANSCAPED ad in this episode. If you are not on the Patreon feed, use promo code DROPSHOT for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Just as a quick reminder, we would very much appreciate the help. We need the help, and that would be a great way to support the program. And joining the Patreon would be as well. So, yeah, other than that, other announcements, nothing really. If we have anything else we want to mention, we will do it at the end of the broadcast. But for now, let's dive straight in, starting with the good. So, first thing I've written down, this is important, and I did mean to put this first, but everything else is not in a particular order. The best part of MW 3, by far, by a mile of the country variety, is that it is not Modern Warfare 2. That's it. Yeah. That's the most good thing about this game, is that it's not Modern Warfare 2. By a long shot, by the way. Because that game was horrifically bad. Yeah. So there's point number 1, just to get that out of the way. And we will circle back to that. That's going to be a recurring theme.
That could kind of end up being the whole episode, yeah.
It really is. It really is actually the entire episode. And that does sum it up. Every other thing we're going to talk about, you can absolutely tie into the fact that this game is not Modern Warfare 2. Yes. So with that said, what is our second point here? I totally agree with it, by the way.
You wrote it, so.
Got it. So, and that's what I said. So crazy fast movement speed is what I guess I've written down.
Yeah, you wrote these first like 4 or 5.
That it would make sense that I would agree with a point that I in fact wrote down yesterday. So that's good. Crazy fast movement speed is again what I've written. Yeah. So
fluid movement in general felt pretty good.
Solid movement in general. And just like we just said, you can tie this to point number 1. It's not Modern Warfare 2. That's kind of exactly it. Movement speed's way better. With basically every gun by basically every metric. So sprint speed is faster. Tac sprint speed is faster. Sliding speed is faster. Strafe speed, aim down sight time, everything really is just much faster in this game than it was in MW2. And even if we're not comparing it just to MW2, which to be clear is not how we're grading this, it's going to come up a lot because that was the most recent game besides this one. But even on an objective, just like Call of Duty, all games scale, the movement speed was quite fast in this game. And that became even more true as the year went on when we got aftermarket parts like the Quartermaster suppressor that gave you so much recoil control that you could slap no stock on your SMG, which was not a feasible option before. So we'll get more into that point, but I think just writ large, the movement speed was just so much better this year. And that contributes tremendously to how enjoyable an arcade shooter like COD will ever be, you know?
Yeah. I would say the only thing that would have been nice, like for Warzone, we ended up getting tac sprint boots, so it doesn't matter a whole lot. But it still would be nice. I've been saying it for a long time now. The duration of default double time should be 4 times what it is right now. I think 3 times what it is. It needs to be improved a lot. And thankfully next year we're also going to have something like tac sprint boots in the game, which they've already talked about. So that'll be good for Warzone specifically. Double time and sprint speeds, tac sprint duration, and all that in multiplayer, I think is generally fine. But again, we shouldn't have the same amount of tac sprint duration on a small 6s multiplayer map on shipment as we do on Urzikstan. It doesn't make any sense. So I would like to see improvements there. So it sounds like next year will be better because I think it's going to be a perk in next game, isn't it? Isn't that what they talked about?
Yes.
I think
it's still going to be double time, but double time is going to allow you to unlimited tac sprint with a weapon. And without that perk, you'll only be able to unlimitedly tac sprint with your knife out.
Yeah.
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 So,
but yeah, movement felt good. And then what you'd said about like the Quartermaster too, I do like how later in the year they started giving us these attachments that essentially don't have cons. Because it was kind of warming us up for BO6, where most of the attachments, and they specifically stated and talked about, and we found out from playing the beta, most attachments literally don't have cons at all. They just improve your gun because they said we don't want, a bunch of trade-offs where you get a small improvement here, but then you get a massive hit here. They want attachments to make your guns feel a lot better in BO6. So I like that idea. So it was cool that they started giving us those attachments, season 5 and 6 here.
Yeah.
Before that game comes out.
Yeah, totally agree. What do we got next here, buddy?
Yeah. Next one for me. Pretty good gunplay. Again, definitely a lot better than MW2. One of those things, though, where we're still missing that MW19 gunplay. Game was not good, but the gunplay was solid. Still, I think the feel of guns, the look of guns, the sounds of guns in that game were the best we've had maybe ever in COD. Not everything, like obviously the ADS times were too slow, things like that, but just strictly shooting the gun felt really, really good. It felt good tracking targets, the recoil, the visual, the gun smoke, the sway, a lot better in MW19, but we got pretty damn close this year. So overall, I think really good gunplay. Again, a massive, massive improvement from Modern Warfare 2. We had some issues later on, like the DTIR having a ton of smoke. They fixed it. Some guns have a little bit more than other, but in general, we got back to finally having guns where your screen didn't shake so much like in Modern Warfare 2, where you couldn't see things with shooting, basically. It was, the gunplay last year in Modern Warfare 2 was absolutely terrible. Just so bad. And this year, massive improvement. Not only improving it to like a playable state, but actually a really good state, I think, for gunplay in general. So overall, I was a big fan of that this year.
Yeah, I agree. And they even had been making improvements like 6 months after launch. I remember they did, I don't know if they did a blog post. It might have just been a tweet, but then like True Game Data made a whole video about it. How they changed the how idle sway works, and like when you ADS in with a sniper, it's instantly like in the center, like all that stuff. So like even like well after launch, they were continuing to make substantive improvements. I do agree with you. I actually don't know this for certain because I haven't played MW19 in a very long time. But from what I remember, MW19's gunplay was still better than like right now, MW3's. But not by a lot. It's like pretty good now. But I think with you.
Like the gun models and everything were really good, just like literally firing the gun, like I said. But then when you take into account ADS times and stuff like that in general, I actually think MW3 right now is probably better than that. But just overall, something felt a little more smooth, it seems like, with MW19 gunplay.
Yeah, for sure. I agree totally. So moving on from that, and kind of related, and we've already kind of touched on it, the aftermarket parts. So I remember when, prior to this game launching, we had been getting blog posts and tweets and videos about aftermarket parts. And they were spending a lot of time on it, just talking about it and hyping it up. And I remember being confused, and I was like, what is this? Because it sounds like they're just describing attachments by a different name. And then hyping it up massively. And I thought it was going to be one of the many things Call of Duty does where they massively overhype something that will not matter at all. I thought aftermarket parts were going to be like that. They were just going to be other attachments, and it wouldn't have been worth hyping me up about attachments just because you call them something different. That's what I was expecting this year. However, I was very pleasantly surprised that that was not entirely true. Now, to be clear, a lot of aftermarket parts that we've gotten this year were dog shit. I mean bad. They just sucked a lot and never were even remotely worth using in any context. I'm talking in multiplayer or Warzone or zombies. There are aftermarket parts such as the AMR9, I think, double barrel. That is never worth using for any reason ever. Period. That's it. So there were still some of those, just trash aftermarket parts. But we also got a lot of very cool ones that were actually innovative and dope. And I was a big fan of that. So I think the best example of this is the Jack BFB. When it first came out, it was a muzzle device that gave you giga recoil control at the cost of not only depriving you of a silencer, but making your ping stay on the minimap even longer than if you had no muzzle device at all. Very cool concept, middling execution kind of, but very cool idea, and by and large, pretty good implementation. I mean, it was used a lot because it was a little too overpowered, and then they nerfed it a little too hard, unfortunately. But that's like a perfect example of aftermarket parts in concept being actually unique from just whatever, some vertical foregrip that under barrel slot.
Yeah.
And then we got other cool aftermarket parts like, I mean, obviously the two that are in vogue right now, the quartermaster suppressor and the paracord grip. Now, again, I don't think there was ever like the perfect aftermarket part, because when you look at the quartermaster, for example, it's so good that it's like an auto pick, and that's not really what I'm looking for. Paracord grip, I think, is probably the closest because it's not just an auto pick. Even if you're running an underbarrel, it's not an auto pick. Some people still prefer like the Jack Slash, for example.
Yeah,
a lot of people do.
Slash.
Yeah, but the paracord grip is like really good, although that's not actually an aftermarket part. but I guess I'll just talk about it now. Some other cool attachments that we've gotten. But yeah, paracord grip actually isn't an aftermarket part. Jack slash is though. So I guess I would say that's probably like the perfect aftermarket part because it's really good, but it's not an auto pick. And it is very unique such that it's more than just an attachment because it gives you something no other underbarrel does, to my knowledge, which is an increase to sprint speed and tack sprint speed, not just base movement speed, which also technically increases those things. And then also it gives you the functionality that no one really uses, but is nice, where if you, actually Biffle uses it, where if you melee while you have a gun with a jack slash on, you like pull your underbarrel out, it's a knife, you stab them.
Yeah.
So it's like a giga gun butt. But no one picks it expressly for that reason. So I think it's really cool that we got aftermarket parts. And this is one of the many things we've seen in a Call of Duty game where it's a new idea this year. It's the first time we've had aftermarket parts. In concept, it's really good and really cool. And even though they largely did not totally nail that implementation of that this year, now we've got the framework. So in 5 years, aftermarket parts are going to be super cool, where they're very, very unique attachments that offer meaningful upsides and maybe downsides or trade-offs in that you don't pick another thing in that slot. And that's awesome. That's what I'd love to see. Just like, again, my favorite example is the Gunsmith and MW19. Great idea. Shit was ass in MW19. It sucked really bad. It would just lie to you about the pros and cons almost for every attachment. So that shit was ass in implementation. But the idea, the concept was fantastic. And now 5 years later, what do you know? We have a perfect Gunsmith. So you just got to give them some time to try a new concept, give them a couple years for them to figure it out. And then eventually we'll be the beneficiaries of that. I think the aftermarket part is the latest example of that kind of revolution, I guess. And I just love the concept. And they actually did a pretty good job in implementation on year one, which is shocking for Call of Duty, but very cool.
The Jack Glassless is another one. Chat's saying that's the number one aftermarket part this year, 100%.
Yeah, 100p.
That's the most impactful aftermarket part. It was cool because it it helped with that visual sway again, because I think it gives firing aim stability, right? That's what makes it feel better than all the other optics. Yeah. So that's really nice, excellent attachment. Really cool that they designed it that way. But kind of like what you were saying too, with the gun sway and all that. Yeah, I forgot about how Sledgehammer changed all of that related to gun sway and the way that worked and where bullets were impacting, because True Game Data made that video talking about how it was bad and it was still in the game from Infinity Ward. And then Sledgehammer was like, okay, we're looking into this. And the next major update, like half a season later or less than that even, they said, here we go. They fixed it all. They showed side-by-side comparisons before and after, just fixing Infinity Ward's mistakes. So that was really cool that they did that. Sledgehammer in general, I think, my opinion of them this year just went up like crazy. They really showed this year, I think, that they could be a top development studio. And I mean, surely it's just, again, has proven that Infinity Ward is just the worst now. They just don't know what they're doing.
Cleanup crew of the year, Sledgehammer.
Yeah, they did an excellent job. Really, really good job.
Mm-hmm.
And moving on, next thing, kind of just about guns and stuff in general. We had a lot of good post-launch guns that were fun to use. HRM, for me, will go down as a Warzone classic. Absolutely loved the feel of that gun.
Yeah.
No muzzle smoke because of good attachments that we had in this game. That was a really fun one. Fantastic Irons gun just felt really good to use. Superi, a lot of other ones. Static is a favorite for a lot of people. STG, the Car 98. I mean, we got a lot this year. A lot of really cool guns. So I think overall they did a really good job with that. Yeah. And it was cool that we got back that one-shot sniping again in Warzone with the Car 98. It was extremely annoying after 3 days, but hey, they did it for a while, then they nerfed it. They realistically probably did it for the perfect amount of time, let people have a lot of fun with it, and then before it just ruined the rest of the year, they nerfed it so it doesn't one-shot like it it did on launch. So
yeah, I think they could have done a little bit better of a job with post-launch guns in terms of the number of them that actually became relevant, because there were a lot that were never relevant also. But there were a lot that were relevant too. So I think it was, honestly, I think it was about the same proportion as most years in terms of like relevant post-launch guns, because they do this every year where they add like a javelin or, you know, I can't think of one from years gone by, but like the Kastov LSW, like they do that pretty much every season. Well, most seasons, definitely every year. So I think they did a decent job. Yeah. But a lot of them were actually quite cool. Yeah. Like the Super E is like very unique because that's the Giga movement speed SMG. HRM was just busted OP, frankly, when it first came out. It was the best at everything, which was fun. And then, yeah, the car. Man, what are some other ones? DTIR
like
just busted OP. STG just busted OP. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, at least they changed things up when they launched, so that's something. So yeah, next one, going to multiplayer. This is something I'm going to miss for BO6, frankly, is the multiplayer perk system. I love the perk system, like the Create a Class of MW3. I think it's one of the best ever, honestly. The big thing that holds it back from being the best ever for me is the guaranteed lethal and tactical slots. Well, they're not guaranteed, actually. So, never mind. But I think too many of the vests had them, I guess I should say. But setting that aside, I really like how they handled perks in this game with vests, basically. So you start with a vest. It gives you some benefits, but it also dictates how many other perk slots you get, which is a really neat, cool, balancing kind of system where you have to pick trade-offs on what you want. Like, I really want to stay off minimap all the time. Okay, cool. Then you can't have a gear slot for anything else, basically. That's not true anymore, but it was on launch. Because there was just like, I think one way to have Ghost, which was the gear slot. So, I really want, Ghost and Overkill, 2 primary weapons. You can't. Because if you take that vest, it doesn't have a gear slot for you. You can't run that perk. That's cool. I like that. They might have gotten a little too crazy because they added a bunch of Giga vests where now you can kind of do whatever you want and everyone has specialist basically. But I think in concept, it was really cool. And I remember like really having to think about it on launch. And you guys can go listen to episodes we did, or probably particularly Patreon episodes at the early in MW3, like before the integration. We spent a lot of time talking about and trying to like craft the best like perk setup, and it was always at a cost. So that was really cool. And we won't see it again with BO6. Might see it again at some point, but I mean, not soon, maybe not ever exactly like this, but it was basically like a modified kind of pick 10 system, which is why I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. I really actually haven't. I probably have the same vest and everything selected that I used like in January still. So the thing for me, it was a really cool idea. I like it. They added a lot of vests throughout the year, which was cool. They changed a lot of things up with the perks in general. Going to the very end into this season, they're still making changes to all of that. So that was cool. Looking at it though now, I could kind of see it being a little too much and I don't know, almost maybe confusing for a casual player. So I wonder how not very good players thought about the system. Because even if I were to go back and play multiplayer right now, there's so many vests and different combinations. I would just be like, dude, it's too overwhelming. I don't even care to change any of it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it feels to me as somebody who doesn't play multiplayer at all. But for multiplayer players, I think it's really good. I just think it probably was not the most casual friendly system they could have created. I kind of don't know if they would ever do it again.
I think you're totally right, especially because there was a lot of overlap between vests and other perks. So a lot of Call of Duty players are scarcely literate, if at all. So if they pick the whatever, like commando vest, assuming that's the one that gives you increased reload speed, but they're not real bright, they might also run the gear slot that gives you the quicker reload speed, whatever that's called. And then when that happens, the vest says if you like duplicate effects don't stack, if you run, you know, whatever that gear slot is, will instead give you the benefits of some random perk, which was kind of like silly. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that probably was not very casual friendly, because that does require like I mean, you and I are like not completely retarded, and we also, you know, pay a lot more attention than the average person to that kind of stuff. And even we had to like think about it, like, is this worth it? Should I do that? I don't know. So yeah, probably not very casual friendly, but still I think overall quite cool.
Yeah. So multiplayer in general, it really seems like they put a lot of effort into it this year. Because again, going back to MW2, remember in literally Season 2 or Season 2 Reloaded, they stopped updating multiplayer. That's not really an exaggeration. They stopped doing anything to the mode. They stopped making changes. Yeah. And multiplayer players were even like saying, I don't even remember what it was, but I remember a lot of people like, these things need to change. And they literally like said at some point during a blog post, we're happy with where multiplayer is at. We're not like changing anything. They straight up told the players that, and they didn't. They changed nothing with multiplayer from like Season 2 Reloaded till that game died.
Yeah.
This year, I mean, they put a lot of effort into it. Everything from interesting camos they did for all these different modes and, you know, events and things. But we had like the parkour mode, Get High. I never played it, but I watched clips of it. It was really interesting looking. It was cool. There are a lot of people who really enjoy a little mode like that. So that was cool for them. War mode was dope on launch.
True.
Really, really fun to play.
Yeah.
The best thing about war mode is, I don't know if it just like didn't have strict skill-based matchmaking or what, but it felt like COD not playing against absolute demons all the time. It was really cool. And it was just an interesting little mode. Unfortunately, it never got too many maps, and the maps they added ended up being bad. But like those 2 we had that we played on launch, that's where I did probably most of the camo grind, actually, was in war mode. So it was a cool little mode. They did a good job on all that. But yeah, just they put a lot of time and effort into multiplayer this year. Like their team was dedicated to it the entire game's life cycle, which is not something we always see in Call of Duty.
Most of the time, usually,
we really don't see this often at all. Like even with getting all the different variants of shipment that came out this season, right? When they did all like the 6 variants of shipment this last season, season 6. I believe
so, yeah.
The reason they did that, according to all the leaks and even like Charlie Intel was saying, is because Treyarch took the last 2 or 3 maps that they had designed to put into BO6. So we were supposed to get new maps still in season 6, but we didn't because Treyarch ended up using them. And so we got all these different versions of shipment. But still, getting 6 different variations of shipment, getting a playlist where it goes through all those, that's cute, that's interesting, really mix things up for multiplayer gamers. So overall, just a lot of effort and time went into it. You could actually tell the devs cared about multiplayer a lot this year.
Yeah, I totally agree, actually. Something I hadn't thought about, because like you said, we don't play much multiplayer these days. But when you do think about it, like once you started talking, I was like, yeah, you're right, actually. They did do a ton to multiplayer. And they haven't really done that, at least since MW19, honestly. I mean, I don't think any of those games we had a lot of content. So
no,
that is very cool. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then next thing here, probably overall between multiplayer, zombies, and Warzone, this last year, the best year of weapon camos we've ever had in Call of Duty, in my opinion. everything was crazy. We got so many cool animated camos, the weapon prestige camos, that whole system was dope. They had just put out so many good camos this year that I'm not sure we'll ever see that again. Because I usually think, oh, Treyarch has the good camos, but coming off this year, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm going to end up being disappointed this next year or not, because so good. So many good camos to run. The Mastery camos were good. The event camos were good. The weapon prestige camos are good. The Warzone rewards were the only one that were kind of a letdown because they could have at least made those animated and they didn't. Especially for some of the rewards you have to do. It kind of takes a little while. So a little disappointed in those, but everything else, they just looked really cool, vibrant, just an excellent job.
Yeah, totally agree. And this actually kind of ties into another cool thing this year was all of the Warzone rewards and like seasonal little challenges they had and the weekly challenges even that became relevant. I never gave a shit about those, but this year, if you do all 8 weeks of weekly challenge is like the 5 per week, 8 times for this whole season, you'll get this camo. Dope. I did all the weekly challenges for, in large part, that reason. And then, again, the Warzone rewards camos, very cool. The camos for getting a certain rank in, like, multiplayer ranked or Warzone ranked, very cool. I think those particular things we may have seen before, but a lot of the other ones we hadn't. And even just camos just for whatever that were not like hard to get or anything. They looked good. Yeah, they look very good. And not to mention, we got weapon prestige camos this year. Recently, actually. Like season 4, I think, or 5. They released those. Which again, we had sort of seen before, kind of.
Season 3. It definitely wasn't season 5 because we have 4 of them now, right? We're on the 4th one.
We have...
So it's 3, 4, 5. We probably got it in season 3.
Okay, yeah. So, regardless, that's cool too, and that's something we also didn't have last year. So yeah, great, like, weapon camos mostly, I guess. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, summing up the good section, when you look at like Warzone specifically, there would be actually too much to say if we described every little thing. Like horizontal zips, I believe we got this year, for example. That's like insane and was transformative. Going up zips like faster. And then later on we got portable balloons, portable buys, little events like that. There's probably a bunch of things in that vein that we could, fire off one by one, but I'm not going to because that would be hard to remember all of those. I've said most of what I remember. Most impactfully, I would say, is the horizontal zip. But I'm just going to read what I wrote. It basically kept all of the good innovations of Warzone 2, such as getting overkill by default in Warzone. You don't have to run a perk. You can just have 2 primary weapons. Being able to buy guns at buy stations. I believe that came with Warzone 2, and that's a good innovation. We kept it. But we did not keep most of the bad. So we left behind AI in Warzone. We left behind strongholds. We left behind whatever other terrible things that were in Warzone 2. I can't... Those were the big ones, what I just mentioned. I think there were more. But, yeah, my internet's still messed up. I don't know. Regardless, all of that is to say, that is exactly how I would I wish Call of Duty would always operate, and Infinity Ward is the big monkey wrench in the gears of this plan, which is to say, you release a new game, it has a bunch of things that are different. Some of them people like, some of them people don't like. Hey, let's keep the good stuff and not keep the bad stuff for next year. And they did a great, perfect job almost of doing that. a lot of good things were added with Warzone 2, but it was not worth everything else we got with it. A bunch of dog shit. And that's why, yeah, we kept a lot of the good things from Warzone 2 and we ditched a lot of the dog shit. And that is why Warzone is in such a good spot right now. Well, was this year. Kind of. We'll get into it. But yeah, that's basically what I would say about kind of everything Warzone compared to last year, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like from the very beginning, people were labeling this an expansion pack. People didn't want to buy it because they said it's just an expansion pack to Modern Warfare 2. I mean, look what we got. It led to one of the best multiplayer games in a long time. Starting from the launch of multiplayer to the launch of Warzone, things just felt good from the start. We didn't go through that normal phase of the game feeling really good in Season 6 of the previous cycle, and then restarting again Season 1, 2, and into 3 feel awful in the next game. It felt polished. It felt solid right away on launch. So I think they need to continue doing this cycle of building a game and then doing some sort of expansion the next year. Because, I mean, yeah, it might be a hot take, but people are really, really looking forward to this Treyarch game. They've had longer development time, supposedly. I guess a year of that was basically spent getting on the new engine, so maybe they really didn't. But I have a feeling this game is going to feel, once again, like a step backwards going into BO6, because we had a polished year for the first time and I don't remember the last time, probably when the game was I don't know, 10 years ago or something. Yeah. It wouldn't go totally backwards, but since we started the podcast, that's how it's worked. Some things get better, a lot of things get worse. True. Rinse and repeat. But this year, things went from really, really bad to not only, okay, they improved it, went from really bad to really good. So MW3 was the first game since we started the pod where it just felt like a genuine improvement in almost all aspects, pretty much. From the previous year, at least. Still things missing compared to what we had in Warzone 1, just the feel of the game overall. But coming from back-to-back games, first time since we started the pod that it was nothing but improvements. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm kind of worried about going in and launch of BO6, because the beta did not feel smooth or great. It felt like a big step backwards. It did not feel polished whatsoever. Yeah. So, we'll see how this year goes. But Treyarch fanboys always just think the game's going to be perfect, but I don't know. I have kind of a sinking feeling it's going to be a massive step backwards. I was disabused of that notion after playing the beta. Yeah, it is not the 4-year development life cycle shit that I was saying. Coping is exactly that. It's a cope. It's going to be exactly what you said, like most years since we started the podcast, which is step forward maybe in some areas, massive step backwards in others, and not learning from our mistakes. And that's something this game did really well because of the reason it was kind of criticized early on, which is this is just an expansion pack for $70 or whatever. It's like, yeah, maybe kind of, but look how good the fundamentals of this game are. That is almost exclusively because it was just an expansion pack. They had the time and the resources, the bandwidth, I guess, to really polish up the game. And that's why the game is, just so much more polished. Heads up, boys. And no, not the ones down there, you pigs. Listen, forget about your balls for a second. We know they're great, but let's meet the new MVP of your shower routine, the Scalp Buffer. It's not just another razor or deodorant for down south. Those are great too. But this is about giving your scalp a little TLC. So let's talk about why this is the only silicone tool you need in your shower. The MANSCAPED Scalp Buffer is a silicone grooming tool designed to exfoliate the scalp, stimulate blood flow, and enhance shampoo performance for a cleaner, healthier head of hair. First things first, let's talk about those thick silicone bristles. They are 100% antibacterial. No more germs hitching a ride on your little head. The bristles gently exfoliate your scalp, and the product helps reduce flaking caused by that dry skin. One of the best features is that it's designed to stimulate blood flow to your hair follicles. Increased blood flow leads to healthier hair. I would know, I have a ton of it. The bristles enhance shampoo penetration for more foam and less product use. It's not just about feeling good. A better lather means better cleaning power. This means your shampoo lasts longer, so you can save the extra cash for a game, a sports ticket, maybe another silicone toy, who knows. You can also pair it with a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner from Manscaped for the ultimate hair care routine. These products are designed to work together, giving your hair the nourishment and strength it needs. And let's not forget the relaxing scalp massage it provides after a long day of playing video games. Using this feels like a mini spa treatment right in your home. It's a great way to unwind while taking care of your little scalp. Plus, the handy hanging notch makes storage effortless. Just hang it up and it's ready for your next shower. Simply put, the scalp buffer is your scalp's secret weapon. Its antibacterial silicone bristles keep your scalp healthy. It maximizes shampoo performance, gives you a soothing massage, kicks bacteria to the curb, and stores away like a champ. Your hair routine just got a really serious upgrade. Join the 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped for all of their grooming needs. Get the scalp buffer today. 20% off free shipping. Use our code DROPSHOT at manscaped.com. 20% off free shipping with the code DROPSHOT at manscaped.com.
So yeah, next section here is the neutral and or mixed bag. So I've written some things down here, Tanner has as well, that are exactly that, a mixed bag. Most of these actually are not neutral. They're exactly what I just said, a mixed bag, good and bad. So
yeah,
this is like the shortest section probably, but that's because most things are either just good or just bad. Oh man, yeah, here's another one. Okay.
Another one in there.
Yeah.
By the way, Pimlovsky, thanks for the Twitch sub about 17 minutes ago. Sorry, buddy.
Oh, Pimlovsky, that didn't appear on my dashboard. I've got it.
Yeah, it was right when it was kind of laggy too.
Oh, okay. That's why. Pim, thank you, big dog, for that Twitch Prime sub. Okay, here we go. The neutral / mixed bag category. So first off, there were no new multiplayer maps. At least on launch. So most of the multiplayer maps, even to this day, that we have in MW 3 are just original MW 2 maps. That's all the maps that there were on launch. Why is this a mixed bag? Couple reasons. Number one, and I would argue most importantly, is exactly what Tanner just said. Because they didn't have to spend a single goddamn second designing a new layout for a new multiplayer map, and all they had to do was remaster a bunch of maps they already had the groundwork for, that gave them way more time to have a way more polished game that has good fundamentals and feels smooth immediately on launch, which this game did. That is a big reason why this game was so polished and the fundamentals are so solid, is because they didn't have to waste any time designing a single map for launch. They didn't have to. That's the good part of the mixed bag. Another good part of the mixed bag is that it's a good collection of maps. I mean, if you're going to remaster a game's maps, the original 2009 MW2, I'll take that. I'll for sure take that. That by and large, the maps are good. They've been vetted.
Yeah.
So that's the good part of the mixed bag. What's the bad part? I personally don't care. So for me, this is not a bad thing, but I recognize for most people it could be. Obviously, they're not original maps, so you don't get the novelty factor or whatever. I don't care about that, so I didn't feel like I was missing out. I didn't get tired of MW3 multiplayer more quickly just because I already knew all the maps from having played literally 15 years ago, right? But some people that was probably true for, and certainly a lot of people were saying that on the TL. So that's why this is a mixed bag. But speaking for just myself, this is just a good thing that there were no new multiplayer maps. I almost want them to stop ever designing multiplayer maps literally ever again, honestly.
I mean, we have hundreds to choose from. Just give us 15 on launch.
Literally, I'm dead ass, dude. We have, so how many Call of Duty multiplayer maps have been designed since Call of Duty 1? Probably like what, 300? 400? Something like
I
that.
doubt 400. I'm thinking between 200 and 300.
Okay, let's call it 250 then. How many of those maps are like decent or better? A lot, dude. Probably 125, half of them. So just literally put all the decent maps or above in a randomizer, pick 12 of them, and then every year launch with those random 12 maps. I would honestly prefer that. I don't need more new ones. I'm done. And also, again, yeah, I've technically played the maps that this game launched with literally 15 years ago. Hey, I'm not sick of them. I'm not still plugging in my Xbox 360. It's fine. I'm okay to play with those again. And if that means we're going to get a game this polished every time, I take that deal in a heartbeat, in a New York second, as some would say. And then they could even go the MW3 route, which is for launch, only remastered maps. And then if you want to do some original maps after launch, like we've done this year, okay, fine, do that. And then if some of them are absolute bangers, instant classics, like we have gotten this year, actually. I think we got 1 or 2 instant classic DLC maps this year. I actually forget what they are. But like Meat isn't an instant classic, but it's a very good map. That's an original. I'd like to see that added. There's another one though. It's an instant classic MW3 map. I forget what it is. But anyways, that would be much better.
Let's go through the list here. We got Meat. Rio's a fun one.
Rio's
Grease,
good.
Terrible. Stash House is probably what you're thinking of.
Stash House, yes, that's what I'm thinking of. Stash House.
Just 6-star.
Instant classic.
Mm-hmm.
Instant classic. So like go that route every year. I would much prefer that to, this is all a moot point. This is just masturbatory, but the reason this game was so polished is because they didn't, on launch, it was because they didn't have to make a bunch of multiplayer maps right away. So I would be happy to see that. But I recognize that for some people, that's a mixed bag opinion. What about you?
I agree fully with you. Yeah, I liked it. I had no problem having only remastered maps on launch. Even back then, we thought it was a pretty good idea. Some of the maps aren't great. Some are just okay. A lot of maps end up being maybe feeling a little worse than they did back then. Afghan is one that comes to mind. I don't know. It didn't seem to play great. But yeah, overall, I think it was only a good thing for the game. Again, like you said, one of the big reasons everything felt so polished is, sure, they still have to. It's not like they don't have to do anything with the maps. It's not like they just port it. They still put a lot of work into it. Yeah. But it saves those level designers having to literally just think of a maps from scratch and totally designing it. So it still saves a ton of time.
Yeah,
ton of development resources. So good for me. Only positives for me. But yeah, I get it. I can understand why some people really don't want to see rehashed maps again.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where all
the same boat.
That's where all the expansion pack talk came from, was strictly because of the map space. Oh, we're getting maps we've already had. It's just an expansion pack. It's MW3. It's just based off MW2. It's based off MW2, and it's 100 times better. And the maps are all remastered.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay. So next mixed bag thing here. The mastery camo was quite easy to get. That's a mixed bag for very obvious reasons that I will mention regardless. On the plus side, I loved not having to get a Riot Shield gold. I loved not having to get a single launcher gold this year. That was awesome and fantastic. So only having to do guns that shoot bullets plus the knife. Sign me up. I love it. Con of that, bad part of that, downside of that, is that it was so easy that it was done pretty freaking quick. And that's what keeps me playing multiplayer these days. So on the one hand, I was very happy to not have to do a Riot Shield or launchers. On the other hand, I was sad that I got it done so fast. And then I was kind of like done with multiplayer. And I was like, all right, Warzone time for the rest of the year. So that's just a mixed bag, period. I mean, they could have made it artificially harder, just increase the number for you of whatever's you need for every camo. I don't think that would really be the way to go, though. I don't think there was really a way around it that I would have preferred, honestly, with just how few guns there were added this year. but at least on launch. But overall, I would rather not have to do a Riot Shield and launcher, even if it's going to be done, even if the grind's going to be done sooner than I'd like. So
yeah, it was nice not having to do those for sure, but I'm with you. I don't like when they make something so quick and easy that it feels like most of the player base does it, and that's how it was this year.
Yeah.
It's a master camo for a reason. It should take a long time. It should be annoying or difficult to do, and it was just none of those things. I mean, this year, so many people did, camos that probably had never done them before ever.
I explicitly remember multiple people saying that, yeah.
And that kind of also makes me care less about it, because you're taking away one of the few things in the game that kind of shows off how much you play the game, how good you are, how much you care about going for it, things like that. So, a little disappointing. The camos were cool looking, but I just wish it took more time. I mean, people in our Discord were finishing it in there's some people who did it in 10 days. 10 days after launch.
Yeah.
Less than 14 days after launch.
For sure.
That's too fast.
Less than 2 weeks. Yeah, I agree.
And it's not like they're playing 18 hours a day. It's like people playing 5 hours a day or something.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so this next point Tanner had written in the good section, I think he said audio was very good at times, which is true, which is also why I moved it down here, because the audio was excellent at times, and then at other times it was dog shit. So the audio was a mixed bag by definition, not because the audio was consistent the whole year and it itself had pros and cons. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is sometimes the audio was just perfect, actually perfect. It just wasn't that way all the time. That's why it's a mixed bag, because the other times it was either middling or complete ass. Right now it's like middling. The audio's like, meh. Realistically, it's like a 5 or 6 out of 10, probably. But we had 9.5 out of 10 audio at one point. And then they just stopped doing that. I don't know what happened. I don't know why. But part of it has to do with what map you're on. So right now on Fortune's Keep, go to Winery. You'll never hear anyone. Good luck. Oh, but run Flex. Doesn't work. Doesn't help. Jake and I were both running Flex. When we would get Fortune's Keep, we would go to Winery and we would both say, yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't help, even Flex. So having to run a perk to simply hear things you should already hear anyway is absurd already, number one. And then even worse, having a perk that helps you hear footstep audio and still not being able to hear footstep audio you should be able to hear is unforgivable. Unforgivably bad. Most of the time, right now anyway, that's not going to be the case, but on Fortune's Keep it is, at least at Winery. So the audio was just definitionally a mixed bag. It was sometimes very good for 2
Rebirth,
seasons.
It was pretty bad too.
Yeah, when Rebirth launched, it was really bad on Rebirth, but it was still really good on Urzikstan at that time. So that's what we mean. It's just very weird, just very strange. And I would love to go back to the golden age of audio where just it worked so well. And the game was so fun, by the way, when the audio was good.
But it never really worked that well. When did it work that well? I think still big map this year when it worked well, that was the best it's ever been in Warzone for sure. I think it just is you have to run Flex now. That's what it comes down to. And then you get that really good audio still. Audio was never good in Warzone, really.
Yeah, this year, it was. On Urzikstan, it was.
No, I'm talking about, you're making it sound like, what I took it as, you were saying back when audio was good in Warzone. I thought you were talking about in Verdansk. Is that not what you're saying?
No, I mean this year.
So you're just talking about this year. Okay, then season 2 and 3 of this year, perfect audio on big map. Yeah, yes. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. Because it got better after launch. It launched and it was fine. It was okay, the audio is good. And then something in season 2 just got a lot better on Big Map, and then it was just perfect there for a couple seasons. And they started ruining things.
Yeah, I think it might have. Yeah, I think it was before. I think it was season 2. I'm like almost positive that's what it was. Season 2 or season 2 Reloaded, because it was soon before they launched Rebirth Island.
Mm-hmm.
And then even when Rebirth launched, the audio was still really good, maybe perfect on Urzikstan, but it was really bad on Rebirth. And then they made it like better, and then I think season 4 or maybe season 3 Reloaded, they just ruined it everywhere.
Yep.
And then it started, I don't know. It's been weird, but yeah, that's what I mean. So, boy, how fun this game was when the audio worked, though, man. Jesus.
I think it's so good right now if you run Flex, but yeah, you do just have to run Flex on Big Map.
On Big Map, yes. However, even with Flex, there are still parts of Rebirth and Fortune's Keep that you will not hear people that you should hear. So if you're in the showers of Rebirth, doesn't matter if you have Flex or not, good luck hearing people. If you are somewhere else on Rebirth that I can't think of, the same thing. And then if you're at Winery again on Fortune's Keep, you'll never hear anyone with or without Flex. So that's just like insane. But anyway. Next, in the same vein, visibility. So visibility is a mixed bag for a different reason than audio. So audio was a mixed bag because it was sometimes really good and then they borked it. Visibility's always been kind of the same this whole year. And the reason it's a mixed bag is because most of the time, the visibility is very good. If anyone is outside of a building ever, I will always see them.
Yeah.
That's already like kind of good enough, honestly. However, in some buildings, sometimes the visibility is very bad. This has never changed. They did make some improvements to the buildings on Urzikstan specifically. They had made a big deal about it in I believe it was a season Reloaded, and we had talked about it. They said we've improved the lighting in like select buildings on Urzikstan to improve visibility or whatever. So I would say by and large visibility is better than average, like maybe an 8 out of 10 overall, but there are just some spots inside some buildings where you will have trouble seeing people. Easiest example I can draw to you is if you are outside of prison on the ground and someone is inside of prison on the ground, you looking in, good fucking luck. They are very hard to see depending on the operator skin they have. That's my best example. That's never changed. But overall, visibility was pretty good. So I put this in the mixed bag cat.
Yeah, I think really good. Really, really good visibility, pretty much.
Yeah.
Skybox on Urzikstan was good all year too, because they didn't do anything to it. So they didn't decide to ruin it like they did.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
With the sandstorm or anything, because they forgot the map existed. So luckily for us, though, that meant we had a good skybox, good visibility the whole year. So yeah, some of the buildings were bad, but still nowhere near the level of bad as buildings that were all over the place on Verdansk, where it's just super dark corners with operators blending in. But yeah, really good visibility this year.
Yep. Yeah.
Audio and visibility both were overall pretty solid. That's
overall the best we've ever had in Warzone, I think. Honestly.
Yeah.
That package, I think it's the best we've ever had. It wasn't perfect, but it was really good. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And that's obviously a massive part of what makes a game fun or awful is, can I see people and can I hear them in the first person shooter video game? Yeah. So they did a pretty good job. Yeah. Okay. Next mixed bag thing, backpacks / looting. So here's another thing that was miserable from Warzone 2, looting. They never figured it out once ever. It just was always a fucking disaster of apocalyptic proportions. You wouldn't auto pick up anything, or you would auto pick up everything, or everything would glitch through the floor, or someone would die and everything would be on the same pixel. Good luck picking up what you want. I mean, a nightmare, awful, dog shit, trash, ass. So That was really bad. The reason I'm putting this in the mixed bag category is because, unfortunately, they did carry the backpack system over from Warzone 2 and kept it for Warzone 3 or MW 3, whatever. However, what was good about it is that it actually works as intended, and I will generally pick up things that I want when I run over them without having to do it myself. Now, it took entirely too long for this to be the case with tacticals and lethals. You would not auto pick them up even if you had them equipped. So if I had a smoke grenades as my loadout, I get my loadout, I throw all my smokes, and then I kill a guy and I run over his 2 smokes. It was not auto picking up. But then took them way too long, but they finally fixed it. And Tanner and I just about did a cum live on stream when we were reading that patch note. So by and large, they did the backpack system correctly if you want to do it. And that's why it's a mixed bag, because you shouldn't have wanted to do it. We should have just scrapped the backpack system altogether. But if you're going to do it, at least do it correctly, unlike Warzone 2. That's better than nothing. So that's why it's a mixed bag for me. It's a bad feature that was implemented very well, basically. Whereas last year, it was a bad feature that was also extremely poorly implemented. So it's a mixed bag. But luckily, we won't have to worry about that next year, which is going to be nice.
Dude, I can't believe how long that was a bug for, not picking up ammo.
Yep.
It was like once you died and came back from the gulag, you would not auto pick up anything until you manually picked the item up first, and then it would start auto picking it. Like, it was so easy. We knew exactly what the issue was and when it happened, and it took them seasons to fix it. Months to fix it. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, at least they didn't have the armor satchel from MW 2. My God, I forgot about that. What a terrible game that was, dude.
True, where you'd only have 2 max plates until you found it. Yeah, terrible idea.
Just
really bad idea.
Insane.
Actually, it was 1 plate, but then they changed it later. Yeah, really bad. Really bad.
What a terrible game.
Miserable game.
Those people just actually should not be developing video games, period.
They shouldn't be breathing as far as I'm concerned, yeah.
Oh my God, I can't believe all the issues they launched MW2, Warzone 2 with last year.
Yeah.
Ooh, 2 years ago, whatever that was. My God, yeah.
I'd love to submerge them in water for like 20 minutes.
20 minutes, you thinking? Yeah. The backpack system worked well. It didn't work super well when we got bunker busters added to the game, and you could call 10 of them in at a time. And
you could duplicate them,
and they wouldn't get notifications. That wasn't great, but the backpack system, overall, it worked well this year. Yeah, things were always picked up when I wanted them to, generally.
Yeah.
I somehow always ended up with a random stack of SMG ammo still.
That's still true, and I don't know why. So
I don't know how that happens. It just is there randomly sometimes.
Yep, every single time, every game.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, overall good.
Yeah.
Good on that front.
So, I'll be glad to be done with backpacks, though.
Just cleaning up Infinity Ward's mistakes. My God.
Yeah, I know. So much work they had to do. Anyway. Okay, so next, this might be a hot take. But for me, this is a neutral / mixed bag point. High value loot zones in Warzone and bunkers in Warzone. I'm just going to read exactly what I wrote. On the one hand, cool, the high value loot zones created hot drops, and that's nice. Which is true to this day, and especially now that everyone knows what they are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like on launch, not many people knew what a high value, where they were, so because they communicated it terribly. But these days, like for example, Trump Tower, the tallest building on Urzikstan, in Zaravan City or whatever, downtown. That's a high value loot zone, and that is a hot drop every single game. There is always at least 2 teams there, or are at least 2 teams there every time. So that aspect, creating hot drops, or like Superstore is another one. It's a high value loot zone. You're never going to land there alone, ever. It's never going to happen. The fact that they create those hot drop opportunities for players who want that is cool. I like that. We talked about that when they mentioned it in the blog post before it even launched. Bunkers as well are also pretty cool, I guess. It freshened up the map. It changed things up, made it unique. And they did bunkers better than they've ever done with the little hatch that gives you an extra balloon on the map that can't be shot down. That's dope too. So there's 2 points of ingress and egress, which is very cool. Great way to handle bunkers if you're going to have them. And also that's where you can get tac sprint boots, which is also kind of cool, I guess. But as time went on, and this is true right now, this created way too much money on the map, meaning, and just valuable items. So if you hit a bunker or a high value loot zone, everyone's going to have self without even having to buy it. Someone might have specialist. You're going to have 2 or 3 deployable buy stations, probably. You're going to loot a bunch of kill streaks. You're going to loot tempered vest or medic vest or stealth vest. You're going to loot a durable gas mask, and you're going to loot a ton of money. So whatever you didn't find, you can now just go buy because there's a ton of money. That's just high value loot zones. Now, when you go to bunkers, you've also got the tac sprint boots and specialist and foresight and advanced UAV. And you can hit these every single game if you want to. By the way, fucking easily. All you have to do is do a most wanted contract. It guarantees you a bunker key card. You go into a bunker and boom, you're done. I mean, it's very easy to do if you want to do it. The problem with that is, if I'm playing big map, I have 2 options. Number 1, get fucked by some team who did a bunker and they all have specialist, stealth vests, durable gas masks, self-reses, and an infinite amount of money to buy more streaks to fuck my ass with. Or number 2, hit a bunker every single game so that I'm on a level playing field with the other people who are inevitably going to do it in a big map round. That's annoying as fuck. I don't want to hit bunkers, dude. I'm over it. The novelty is completely gone. I do not want to waste my time going into a fucking bunker ever again. But I have to, or I'm just going to be at a massive disadvantage. Now, it's not an insurmountable disadvantage, but the players who tend to hit bunkers every game tend to be good because they like winning, and that's why they're going to bunkers every game. So it's going to be a pretty sweaty team oftentimes that are hitting these bunkers. So if you're not on a level playing field with them, again, not insurmountable, especially if you're a wildly successful podcaster who has really good friends to play with all the time. You guys can't relate, but it's difficult and annoying, especially getting kill streak spammed, which you will get every single game of Urzikstan. So this is why this is a mixed bag for me. Mainly, the good things are high value loot zones created very reliable hot drop areas. That's really cool. I really like that. Bunkers, I'm honestly done with them. They were cool for the novelty. I'm over it now. I'm totally over it. I wish they would remove bunkers entirely. But the other downside is, again, what I just said. Way too much money, way too much good shit on the map that you have to seek out or just get punished for not seeking out. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And again, I said it might be a hot take, so you may disagree.
Yeah, I don't know. I like having the bunkers there still overall. And the thing about only sweaty players doing them, I definitely disagree with that. A lot of absolute shit cans do the bunkers too. That's all they do. Whenever I play random fill on big map, all these dog shit players want to do is loot, 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 go hit a bunker, loot, loot, loot. You don't ever fight anybody. So it seems to actually be a thing that a lot of bad players also do, is just, I don't know, they think they're going to just hit a bunker and like get good stuff out of it. I'm talking sub half KD players playing in randoms, just loving the bunkers, just wanting to hit all the bunkers. There's this one game that I played, they hit 2 or 3 bunkers. I'm like, what are you guys doing? We of course just got wiped to the first team we came across. They're stupid. So I don't think it's only sweaty teams hit them. I think sweaty teams are in and out of there so quick you almost don't notice. But like when you get in those fights down in the bunkers, doesn't it always feel like it's a shit can team?
Yes, that's true. Team. You're right. Because sweaty players, the good players are in and out real fast.
They don't even loot them. They open it, they run all the way to the back room, they get specialist, they get foresight, and they they balloon out of there. They're not looting every room. They're not looking for a bunch of stuff. They just immediately leave.
True.
But high value loot zones, on the other hand, I prefer them in the game to them not being in the game. Like, it makes places like Trump Tower hot. Granted, people would probably still drop there either way, but it's nice to also for us to drop there and then know that you can get good guns or your custom guns because it's a high value loot zone. So I like that. I kind of wish they had changed the zones up every once in a while.
True.
It's another thing they added in and then just didn't do a single solid. I mean, they literally didn't update high value loot zones, anything to do with them one time.
Yeah, correct.
They put them in the game and sometime in season 3. Was it season 3 or season 4? If anybody knows, I feel like it was probably season 3.
I want to say 3.
Put him in there and then just never did anything with him. So it kind of would have been cool if they, if they did some changes with those. But it is what it is. Overall, I like the high value loot zones in terms of like all the money and stuff. Maybe, but honestly, like, you find streaks so often anyways, you really don't know if these people are buying them or just finding them. And a lot of those aren't even in the bunker, just outside of bunkers, you find a lot of streaks. So
that's true.
Which we'll get into. I'm not, it also just like, I was kind of at the point this year where I just wanted Warzone to feel more fun than what we had the previous year. And it definitely captured me in that way. You got that fun feeling, even with a lot of cheese like that, a lot of teams having money and streaks. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I would like high value loot zones a lot more if the bunkers did not exist, because then there would be more money on the map, but not so much more, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Another neutral thing here, or mixed, is they were updating the buy stations every season, and we talked about that early on. Like, this makes a massive difference because it totally changes where people land. Because if there's no buy station in an area, generally people start avoiding those areas. So like Old Town and Low Town were hot for a while early on, and then they removed the buy stations there, and those POIs died. They changed buy stations for the last time in, I don't know, season 4 maybe, and then just haven't touched them since then. Whereas like they were updating it, and it was making impactful changes. Then, like everything else, they just stopped doing stuff to the game, and they didn't update it anymore. So I've received that. But it was really cool, and I wish they had just literally kept that up every single season.
Yeah.
Change the buy station placement.
Dude, great comms, because I completely forgot about this because they stopped doing it. But I did love that they were doing this. It really did. It was a very easy way on the dev side to massively mix up how this game plays with very little work. Literally all you got to do, take that buy station out of Old Town or Low Town. I get those mixed up. And we stopped landing there. Like, it was that easy. Or, you know, whatever. Put one in cargo that wasn't there before. Boom. That changes where we land. That changes how the tempo of the whole, or at least the path of the whole game is going to play. Yeah. Like a game is going to feel way different depending on where you land. And when you mix up the buy stations, you kind of force people who are creatures of habit to land somewhere else if their buy station that they liked isn't there anymore. That was really cool. And then they stopped doing it, which makes it kind of a mixed bag. I would say another reason this was a mixed bag is because sometimes they would mix up the buy station locations, cool, but they would also have POIs that had literally 0 buys at them. Not so cool. Change up where they are, but don't remove all of them from a named POI like you did with Old/Low Town. I forget which one it was. That's insane. Don't do that. You've gone too far. Don't remove a buy from an entire POI. That's not good. But overall, it was cool. Yeah, this is a great mixed bag little section here. Point, rather. So now on to the bad. So these are things that are almost entirely bad, or completely and virtual and totally bad. Yes. No real upsides on most of these. There might be some very small ones, but these are not like mixed bag. These are just mostly bad, at least in our opinion. So this one might be a hot take, actually. MW2 weapon carryover. So the fact that you could use MW2 weapons on day one of multiplayer, that are all leveled, by the way, or when the integration happened, that you were able to use them in Warzone, I think was virtually all bad. So for multiplayer, I think it's more obvious. And You guys saw it if you watched me streaming MW 3 on day one. Guess what my first game is against? Shitter fuck sweats using their CDL 5 attachment meta, what was it? TAC 56 and Vaznev. I forget what the meta guns were, but whatever they were,
right.
Whatever they were on day one, I'm out here like an asshole trying to level the new guns and play the new content. And this guy has his optic operator skin on, his whatever iridescent calling card from MW2, and he's using 2 meta MW2 guns that are max leveled, obviously, and have full attachments. Cringe. Adds nothing to the game. Because you gave us other automatic weapons. There's no gun from MW2 that MW3 did not have a similar enough gun to where we really needed the MW2 weapon carryover in multiplayer, for sure. And then in Warzone, same thing. We didn't need any of the MW2 guns in multiplayer. I think maybe very early on, there was a meta or 2 guns that were from MW2. That quickly stopped being the case. And there was never a dominant MW2 gun in the meta, ever, even now. So why do we have those guns? What does it add? Well, doesn't add a unique, interesting gun that I can't otherwise get from MW3 guns. Nor are any of them good. So why make me scroll through all that shit when I'm making a loadout in multiplayer or Warzone? Oh, just to piss me off. Got it. You've succeeded. This shit was ass. Stop doing the weapon carryover bullshit. We don't need this. Please. Yeah. I think there's nothing good about this. Actually, nothing good about it.
There's nothing really good about it. Yeah. People feeling less scammed, I guess, because they can use their guns and camos more than
I guess that would be the argument. Yeah. Oh,
but yeah, you did talk about that a lot. It happened like that first day, and then honestly after that we never really saw it again, thankfully. But it was funny how early you saw that.
It was like the first week, I would say, but yeah, it was.
I think
insane.
it was in the first few days. It felt like, yeah, and we saw like a handful of them, but overall it didn't end up being a big issue, thankfully. Yeah. But
yeah, no, it wasn't.
The guns, I think once people realized how much better the MW3 guns felt anyways, they're like, oh, a meta TAC 56 feels worse than a 0 attachment AR in MW3. Right. So
yeah,
you know,
exactly. Yeah. So anyway, okay, next one here. This is a big one.
Massive one, they say.
Urzikstan got, which is the big map, by the way. In case you forgot, because you haven't played it, because they've done nothing to it the whole year. They've done nothing to, basically, for the whole year. I mean, Urzikstan, unironically, the biggest thing, well, no. The biggest thing is the bunkers. But, like, the second biggest thing they ever did to Urzikstan is literally just changing where buy stations are. Actually, I'm not even kidding. What else did we get? That was a map change.
Changing buy station placement was unironically more impactful, I think, than adding Superstore.
Yes.
Like, seriously, dude.
Yeah, I agree. I actually agree. And that just goes to show you how little they gave a fuck about Urzikstan. They did very little to it the whole year, and that really sucks. I think the map itself, we could talk about. If we were going to, I would put it in the mixed bag category because it's a meh BR map. It's fine, I guess. I don't have strong feelings about it. And I've played it a lot. So it's not like Caldera where I really hate it or hate aspects of it. And it's not like, I don't know. Well, I guess that's kind of it. I've never really loved the big map BR map. Anyway, I don't know. I have no strong feelings negatively or positively about Urzikstan, so I would put that in the mixed bag category. But on the bad side, back to where the topic here, Urzikstan, they launched a middling BR map, and then that's it. They didn't do anything to it. We got high value loot zones. They changed up where the buys are. We got bunkers, and then we got green cum around Popov, and then little underground rat tunnels that I've been inside of once, maybe. Like, they don't matter. So
Popov, yeah.
That was it. That was it.
Well,
Shit's
wait.
ass.
We actually forgot one thing in the good, which is 120 players. That was the most impactful thing they did to Urzikstan.
Yeah, good
Change
point.
the player count.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, 100 120 was nice.
Aside from that, yeah, they kind of just they did an early kill. They did an early kill themselves on the Urzikstan front because they launched it with 100 players. It was dead as hell. Nobody was having fun. Nobody was getting in gunfights. Everyone was like, what the hell is this? They started playing Resurgence instead. They saw, wow, 97% of the player base are on Resurgence. And then they just stopped doing things to the big map, basically. Because they made their own large map feel bad by making it feel like a slower, much more boring version of Resurgence.
Right.
So.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they'll figure it out one of these years. They won't.
1 year. Yeah, they always get that mixed up. They will cause an effect and then look at that effect and be like, oh, I guess players hate the thing we caused. But they won't realize that it's because they caused it. Yeah, so we've talked about that a lot. And that's, of course, not to mention another bad thing, which we'll talk more about. We never got big map ranked Warzone. Okay. But hey, by the way, World Series of Warzone was a big map LAN tournament for $1 million, right? That was the LAN event. It was on a big map, but nothing on ladder for ranked big map. I mean, obviously that's bad. There's nothing else we need to say on that. So that leads into our next point, which is very related. We did get, and I say this with massive air quotes, Warzone ranked play, but it was on Fortune's Keep, which we will also get into, and Rebirth Island in a Resurgence game mode. And that's it. Diabolical. A diabolical decision that I will resent Raven for maybe forever. I mean, it's just so insane that World Series of Warzone was not ranked Resurgence, but that was all you could play all year. What are we doing? What's going on here? Most Warzone players like to play big map. That's the more skilled game mode. Yeah. And everyone who is a competitive Warzone player would prefer to be playing on big map, not Resurgence. Resurgence is almost, in my opinion, definitionally a casual game mode. Like, there's a reason there isn't CDL team deathmatch, right? Because that would be fucking retarded. Because that's not a competitive game mode, really. So why do we have the equivalent for ranked? We've never had ranked ladder TDM, to my knowledge. So why would we have ranked ladder Resurgence? Great question. I can't answer that for you. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me. I can't even begin to understand why they did that. And that's the reason we never got big map ranked. So these are 2 points that are 2 peas in a tiny little pod, I guess. I don't know.
And we thought it was okay at first. We're like, okay, it's going to be really, really bad. But hey, it'll only be a season and then it'll be
exactly.
On
yeah.
Boy, were we fucking wrong, man.
Yeah,
oh my God. I mean, we've had Rebirth rank now. So what, Fortunes Keep ranked play come out in season 2 or 3?
2.
So then we've had Rebirth ranked play season 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 Correct. Straight seasons of Rebirth ranked play, which was already bad the first season, with 0 changes to it.
Yep.
Couldn't you have even tried Vondel? I mean, yeah, it's sad. I've seen a lot of people talking about that recently, which I didn't think we ever would. I think it was even Reeve. Some Super Sweat had tweeted about, like some Super Sweat K-Bam guy, about how Vondel, it would have been fitting to end ranked play this year on Vondel. And then even Reeve was like, Vondel would have gone crazy on ranked play.
Oh,
like, yeah, we've been saying that, dude. It would have been very, very fun.
Yeah, it would have been.
But unfortunately, they didn't do it. So ranked play was essentially dead, in my opinion, by like season 3 Reloaded. Well, we'll just say the end of season 3, going into season 4. 1 season of Rebirth, that's more than enough. It sucks. Resurgence ranked is really bad.
Yeah, it is.
It's a really bad game mode.
Yeah, it is.
And it's full of cheaters and it's shit.
which we'll also get into, of course. Yeah. So kind of staying on topic here. The next point, Fortune's Keep. I don't really need to say more, but I will. This was a decent map when it was originally designed. Not great, but decent. I would say maybe slightly above average. It was okay. It was pretty fun. They re-released it, put ranked on it, and oh, best of all, they completely ruined it. I mean, ruined it by putting the San Andreas fault through the middle, and it's just a disaster. I mean, it has anti-flow. Whatever the complete and polar opposite of flow is, that's how Fortune's Keep plays. It's the most cattywampus, dog shit, trash map layout I've ever had the displeasure of playing in Warzone. Besides maybe like Fortress from MW 2 for the week that they tried that experiment. But it's really bad, and it's a real shame. It's a real shame. And they made us play ranked on it, if you were into that. So that was cool.
Yeah. Terrible map. Really, really just horrific map.
Yeah.
Another bad thing is Ashika existed and they didn't change that. Ashika could have been good. Change the skybox, give it a shot. Make it not depressing looking. Maybe
bomb castle instead of the middle of your map, Fortune's Keep. Yeah, that would have been cool.
Oh my god, they ruined Fortune's Keep. Yeah.
Yep.
They really ruined it.
Yeah. They chose it.
So bad.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe they spent time just strictly making the map worse. A lot worse too.
A lot of time too, because there were a lot of changes. And they were universally bad. I mean, nothing was better about it. Nothing's better about it, actually. Maybe a couple tiny things if I try really hard to think. But, I mean, yeah, they totally ruined it. So, that was cool.
Next bad thing, bunker busters, mosquito drones, stuff like that. Don't need it. Especially on launch. Do you remember on launch how many mosquito drones were on the ground?
Dude,
They were in every single chest. There would be 100 of them in one POI floating above.
Dude, I remember playing Fortune's Keep, bro, and I think I talked about it. It was for like a minute straight. I thought my announcer like glitched. She was like, hey, eyes up, enemy mosquito in the AO. Keep your eyes open. There's a mosquito drone above you. Hey, there's another mosquito. Like for like 45 seconds, the announcer was just yapping, and it was all about enemy mosquito drone called or whatever, because there were so many. Yes, I remember. Unfortunately, it was comical how many there were. Yeah. Also a shit kill streak in
Guardian
concept.
SC in your AO.
Yeah.
Guardian SC.
Yeah.
Enemies toss down a Guardian.
Yeah. Yeah.
UAV, counter UAV, counter UAV, counter UAV.
Yeah, it's so bad. It was so bad. Yeah, I agree. Mosquito drones just shouldn't exist, frankly. I think they're either
the next one.
They're either going to be too good or just too like I don't know. I just don't like mosquito drones. I don't think they add anything to the game, frankly.
Now it's become one of those things where now it's just like, all right, we don't need them. There used to just be issues with it, like they would one-shot you. There were too many of them. You got a comm for it across the map.
They were bugged, so they'd be destroyed and still on the map.
Now it's just one of those things, though, where it's like, let's just get it out of the ground loot. It's just bugging me at this point. Plus, they never removed that one that's been on the mini-map in Lowtown. No, that's a Guardian SC. No, it's both of them. There's a Guardian SC and a Mosquito somewhere around Lowtown, Old Town that have been on the map as a marker since the day Warzone launched.
Yeah, some dev put it down
for a while. You're like,
close the game and save the map. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then they haven't made any updates since. They haven't made any map changes, so they forgot it was still there.
Right.
Like, oh my God. And they don't play it. They're all on Rebirth Island. Actually, they probably love Fortune's Keep, their best map ever in their opinion, so they're all playing that. They don't know what Urzikstan looks like. Yeah. They barely know what it's called. They called it Urzikstan in a blog post. They don't have a fucking clue.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I think mosquito drones are just in concept. They don't like okay, like a precision airstrike, fine. Especially now that they added, oh, here's another good thing. The precision airstrike little sign on the minimap, the little indicator, that's in the good section. I just forgot about that. That was a great thing to add. And it's actually very representative of where the damage is actually going to be. If you're out of that, you're safe 100% of the time. That's really good. So that's a good section. So again, PAs, for example, I think they have a place in Warzone, and they add something to the game. I think it would be a worse game without them, because they're strong, but they're not overpowered. They can force people off a rock, but there's also outplay potential if you get one called on you. There's a skill gap to using them. When do I use it? Can I try Kobeing this guy? You know, whatever. Like that. Or like, you know, if you get it down really far away, you're never going to get the full unless you have a PA. So I think you should get punished for getting downed, even if you're really far away. But it should take a little extra effort, meaning they have to buy or acquire or carry whatever and call the PA. There's a spot for that. Mosquito drones, I don't see the argument. What do they add? I don't think they add anything. I think they're just fucking annoying. Get rid of them. And then bunker busters, totally done with those. They were way too overpowered on launch. Now they're just too overpowered. They're not way too overpowered anymore, but they're too overpowered. It does as much damage as a PA. Well, no, it doesn't, but it does a lot of damage. It creates the gas bubble thing, and it also damages someone on any floor of a vertical structure. So they're just way too fucking strong, and way too common. I'm done with them. I see what they were going for. Like if there are campers on the top roof of a building, but they're not on the roof, they're inside, you can force them out. No, you can't. The gas circle's too small. You can always stay on that floor. So it's not accomplishing that. It's just pissing me off.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
So like either massively rework them or better yet, take them out. We don't need them. If someone's camping inside of a building on like floor 12 out of 13 and they're shooting you out of a window, I shouldn't be able to call any kill streak and just make them leave cover. That's insane. And bunker busters don't do that anyway. Even if they did function as intended, well, then it would just be too fucking strong. So like, I don't see the place for them. They're just very annoying because of the gas cloud they create, basically.
Yeah.
They're like not effective enough to do what they're intended to do, but they're effective enough to be really annoying, basically, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that is true. It's the only thing the main thing that's annoying is when you'll be on a roof and they'll like PA or mortar you, and then you go inside and then they also call a bunker buster. It's like, really, dude? You're just wasting my time now, and you're bugging me. Because it's like they'll call it in, and you're right, we just sit in one corner of the building and just wait it out. It's like,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And like the argument is, oh, well, that's giving them time to rotate in on you because you're forced to not be on the roof and stand in a corner, I guess. But like a mortar is going to force me off the roof by itself. The bunker's now it's just I have to stand in whatever 80% of the floor on the building, the level right below the roof instead of 100%. Okay. Like, this is just retarded. I don't know. I hate bunker busters and mosquitoes and bomb drones. I think they should all be removed. So yeah. Next one. This is a very big one for me. Pretty sparse on the weapon balancing this year. So much so that we're now in bad territory, rather. We this year did not get weapon balancing at a regular interval. Well, we did get them at regular intervals every season or season reloaded. Problem with that is that's not often enough. It's not even close. And this was especially painful and disappointing because Raven's in charge of Warzone this year. And the last time Raven was in charge of Warzone during the Caldera era, they got a little crazy. Don't get me wrong. And we did do a year in review episode on that topic. But at least every single week, maybe often multiple times a week, there would be a patch with weapon balance. They went bonkers on the weapon balance. And the weapon balance was, I mean, good, bad, or indifferent. At least it was updated very often. And there usually was not something giga overpowered for longer than a week in Caldera. That map and the game at that time had a lot of problems, but overpowered weapons that overstayed their welcome was absolutely not one of them. If it was, there's like maybe one exception I'm forgetting or something. But they did so much weapon balancing that we were expecting it this year, and we absolutely did not get it. The DTIR is still too overpowered. The STG was way too overpowered for way too long. The HRM was way too overpowered for way too long. The Car 98 was way too overpowered for too long. There are probably other examples, almost certainly other examples that I'm forgetting, and that shit's ass. Make me use a different weapon once, please. But like, even if they're doing weapon balancing, you're still not you're not balancing enough to shake up the meta at all. So like in the STG's case, they launched it, it was way too overpowered, then they balanced it, and it was still too overpowered. Then they balanced it again, and then it wasn't overpowered anymore, but it was still your best option. So we were left with the STG meta for so long, dude. So long. Please let me use another gun. Please. I'm so bored of the STG. I'm so over it. Even if you've balanced it finally so it's not disgusting six-shotting me in 2 milliseconds, I'm still bored of the gun now. Holy fuck. And Super was another one. That gun was meta for so fucking long. And it was so easily the best gun for so long. Static also. Like, we just did not shake up the meta enough, even if we were doing some weapon balancing, which also was coming in too infrequently, I would say. I interrupted you.
No, you didn't interrupt me. Yeah, they've also just been not the greatest at, sometimes they'll do it when guns are very overpowered and they need to nerf it, but then other times they don't, like with the shotguns we're seeing right now.
Oh, yeah.
Just nerf them.
Good point.
Also, right now, it's not a massive issue yet, but somebody discovered that the mono rounds, I think it's only on the DTIR, I'm not sure, maybe it's on every gun, but they just wall bang through anything like it's a paper wall.
Yeah.
So if people are running Combat Scout, mono rounds, and just literally shooting through anything, how long is it going to take for them to fix those? Until the whole lobby's using it, basically? Who knows?
Right.
Yeah, it's just, it goes along with the weapon balancing, and then just like, Raven just stopped communicating.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened over there. They've just had a massive fall off, it seems. The whole studio is definitely not what I thought anymore. It's like, this year really showed me that Sledgehammer can do a really good job, and then Raven is just constantly like, what are you guys doing? I mean, even with the Halloween event, we're like, I was saying for months, well, they're not doing anything to the game. The Halloween event's going to once again be the best thing they've ever added in Warzone. Even that was shit.
Yeah,
they hardly put any effort into that. Like, Purgatory was cool. It's a cool game mode, really interesting, but supposedly Sledgehammer also did that. What the hell is Raven doing?
Yeah.
And then we're going to get the new Warzone integration with BO6. Guess what? It's going to go backwards again. It's going to not even be as polished as what we have now. A bunch of things are going to go back to feeling bad again. So what the hell have they been doing?
Yeah.
What's going on over there?
One of the questions of all time. I agree.
So, yeah, but weapon balancing, it's been an issue the whole year. Definitely one of the biggest complaints from the community, it seems, is the lack of weapon balancing.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they've stopped, it's season, mid-season. That's essentially all they do now for weapon balancing.
Yeah, and to be clear, like, we've had good metas, but we were just stuck with them for too long. And then sometimes we've had decent metas, and we were stuck with them for too long. And then sometimes we've had miserable metas, and we were also stuck with those for too long. Like Jakin just mentioned in chat, the MTZ Interceptor that was two-tapping people. How long was that good for? Far too long. Like, so whether the meta we happened to find ourselves in this year was good, bad, or terrible, we were always stuck with it for way longer than we should have been, even if it was a good meta. So that is frustrating because it makes the game awfully stale, especially if you're a big map player, when also, in addition to not getting a different meta for too long, you're not getting map changes ever. So the game gets really boring for you. So yeah, it was just bad.
Yeah.
And then like you mentioned, the Halloween event. That was the big thing. We were all like, oh, well, at least the Halloween event will be cool. We got it in August. It's 105 degrees outside. I'm like, have all my fans on. I'm wearing
central
no
air's
shirt.
running nonstop.
Yeah, dude, no shirt,
It ain't
no
Halloween,
clothes
bitch.
on. Yeah, and we have a middling at best Halloween event. Purgatory was cool. I'll give them that for a match. And then I never played it again. Okay.
But again, Sledgehammer did that. Raven didn't do that.
Yeah, good point.
That's why it was interesting and wacky.
Yeah, good point. And then Zombie Royale was miserable. I mean, terrible for reasons we've talked about recently, so I won't get into them here, but it's just the same, to summarize, it's the same thing we've gotten for the last 5 years. We're over it. It sucks. So yeah, like the very cool Halloween event, which was one of the saving graces of MW2, one of the very few saving graces of MW2 was a very cool Halloween event that was genuinely interesting, even for me, who is not an LTM guy. I was won over by it. We were expecting something similar this year. We weren't even close. I mean, this wasn't even 10% as good as last year's Halloween event, actually. Maybe exactly
crazy.
10% because of Purgatory. But that's it. It was bad. So, yeah, that's another thing. No good seasonal anything, I would say, even, honestly. Because we got like a St. Patrick's Day, like the water was like whiskey for like a week in Warzone 2. It wasn't whiskey.
Oh,
but
yeah.
They did something for St. Patrick's Day. That was cool.
Yeah, they did.
But we didn't get any seasonal holiday anything at all. Except a dog shit, again, Halloween event this year.
I'm on my hands and knees begging for something Christmas or winter related. That is not complete dog shit. I'm begging.
Yeah.
I'm begging. I'm going to go to church tomorrow morning and start praying for this, man.
That may change everything. Yeah.
It might change everything. Stop making Halloween events. Just stop, please. Move on.
Yeah. Yeah. You talked about that recently, but let's switch it up. Like the bigger thing being Halloween, let's make the big thing, Christmas. Like, or winter, whatever. They're all about DEI, so make it winter instead. Halloween's like a pagan holiday after all, so you could pick some other culture for a couple days. Dude, I would take like a Ramadan event. I won't know what the hell's going on. There's a menorah, I guess. I don't know what that's for, but whatever. If it's like a cool, different LTM and everything looks all different, dope, fine. Sign me up. I'll do whatever. Kwanzaa, I don't care. Just not Halloween. I don't even, yeah.
Since Tarkov did their seasons, that is really what makes me want COD to change a lot. Because them just adding snow to all the maps on Tarkov makes the game feel so much different. It's a much different game. But even then, it's like, wouldn't it be so cool just to see Urzikstan, whatever map, just cover it in snow, make it sound like I'm on snow, add a few Christmas trees, add a few, Christmas lights on the houses, and call it a day. You spend less time, I'm happier.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another thing we talked about recently, but yeah, so true. Like seasons would be so cool, but whatever. So, and then last thing for me, I don't know if you want to say any more on that last point. That's fine if you do,
that was
but
pretty much in there.
Okay. Yeah. So we've saved the best for last. And by best, I of course mean worse. By a pretty significant margin, I would argue. That is, of course, two things. Number one, server performance issues. Now, I will say, personally, I did not have many server issues or performance issues this year. I'm having some now. I'm having some now, unfortunately, because if I play big map, maybe 1 out of 5 games I will have packet loss that I cannot fix, even if I disconnect and reconnect. If I relaunch the game, it still won't fix it. And I will crash on big map. It's only been this season, though. However, for many people, there have just been ass servers and ass application running the whole year intermittently. I don't know if it's worse this year than it's ever been. Probably not. But it wasn't a great year in terms of like server stability.
Yeah.
And people will still just like, and this happened in Warzone 2 as well, but I don't think it happened this much, where you'll be like running and the server will just die for everyone. That's another thing.
Yeah, servers died a few times.
And that sucks, obviously, especially if you're like playing ranked Resurgence, unfortunately, and you're having a good game and it's like fourth circle, you're already up SR, you're frying, and then it's like, oh, server crashed. I'm just lagging. I'm like not moving. Nothing's happening. You're done. That's it. The whole server for everyone just gets crashed. So that's been pretty bad. But then coupled with that, this is, in my opinion, the worst thing this year. Cheaters. Obviously. We recently got into it on Twitter because some big Twitter account quote tweeted Jaren basically.
Thanks, Jaren.
Jaren like was trolling and said, "You think there's a kernel level anti-cheat? LMAO. You must not listen to at the Dropshot podcast." And then some big Twitter account quote tweeted that and was like, "Actually, there is. If you check your task manager, you can see program x2gigafuck.exe running in the background. That's a kernel level anti-cheat or program, whatever." And then I, of course, said, "Okay, well, it might be a kernel level program, but it's obviously not an anti-cheat because I see cheaters every single day I play this video game, irrespective of what game mode I'm playing. So if I'm playing ranked right now or in season 5, I see them probably every other game, generously. Maybe 2 out of 3 games there will be a cheater in. If I'm playing unranked, I'll see them 1 out of every 5 games, maybe. For the last, I'd say maybe 4 months, this has been the case. Cheaters are still a disaster. And if you're trying to like queue ranked like I was really hard in season 5, this is especially annoying. There was a guy who still haunts my dreams, by the way, named TTV Moon. Guess what? There's no one named Moon on TTV. Certainly not this guy. He just throws that in there so people think he streams and therefore they don't report him. Because they think, surely, if this guy's a streamer, he wouldn't be just aimbotting on Twitch. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't stream. He threw that in there just for shits and giggles. And he had 1 quintillion SR in the top 250 leaderboard. He farms me one day, right? Just farms me. I mean, 3 games in a row, we're just getting ass fucked by TTV Moon. So, okay, cool. We all spam report him billions of times. It does nothing. But then that day passes. I go to sleep. I wake up and I'm like, okay, maybe they banned Moon. I log on. They didn't. No confirmation of successful, whatever. Okay, maybe they just didn't send me an email, but they banned him anyway. Then a couple days goes by. I forget about him. It's like 10 to 12 days later. 12 sleeps later. I have forgotten about this guy. I've gone to see my therapist a couple times. I've talked it out. I've done exposure therapy. I took Molly and talked about the time TTV Moon repeatedly fucked my ass on stream. And I got over it. Forgot about it. 12 days later, dude, guess who I see? 21 Savage operator skin. It's like a Vietnam flashback. I'm instantly transported back. Oh no. Is it him? Sure as shit. Guess who's back, baby? TTV Moon. Now he has 8 quintillion SR on the top 250 leaderboard and still hasn't been banned. This was in season 5, by the way. He's probably still not banned. Cheaters are worse than then now. So it has been a disaster on ranked. But again, even in unranked, and especially on big map, because here's the thing. If you want to avoid cheaters and you enjoy Resurgence, if you queue unranked Resurgence, you're not going to see that many. You still will see them, but they won't be that many because guess where all the cheaters who like to play Resurgence are going to go ranked. Can't say that about Big Map, though. If you're a cheating rat who likes to play Big Map Warzone, I can't run away from you by playing unranked Big Map, because guess what? There's no ranked Big Map ever. So I'm always fucked on Big Map. They're very common also on Big Map. So it's been a disaster. By the way, that big Twitter account that had tweeted, actually, there's a kernel level anti-cheat, was a cheat developer. Got it. All the dick riders on Twitter that were saying, oh, can't admit you're wrong. Retard, shitter, fuck, cheater. Keep yourself safe. Seek Canadian healthcare expeditiously. The cheaters have been a disaster. And to say that, oh, but Ricochet, there's a kernel level anti-cheat. I don't see cheaters in my lobbies. Congratulations. You've exposed yourself. Hey, what's the expression? What do the kids say? That's a self-report. That's what that is. Oh, I don't see, there's no cheaters in my lobbies. You have reported on yourself because you're dog shit. And congratulations, you don't see them that much. Here's what I suspect is really the case. You get slammed so hard so often that you can't tell when someone is cheating or just good in the kill cam when they just roll your shit because you're ass. So you probably are seeing cheaters. You're not seeing as many as a good player would, but you're still probably seeing them. You just can't tell that they're cheating because you're a shitter fuck. And you think everyone's better than you because you're kind of right. Most people are. So the cheaters have been a disaster of biblical proportions. And the gaslighting that we constantly get year after year. Oh, we banned 60,000 accounts. That's like 8 dudes with 3,000 accounts per person, by the way. Like this massive account number ban wave shit. Hey, you're not fooling me. None of these cheaters have one account. You have a free-to-play BR with no anti-cheat. So that really ruins the game also. And again, this is especially giga true if you're a ranked player. I have not even tried playing ranked in season 6 when I otherwise would be playing it. I would otherwise be playing ranked Resurgence when I play Warzone. But the cheaters are so bad that they have discouraged me from queuing for it, and it's changed how I play this game. That's insane. That's insane for a company with the resources that Activision has. It's unconscionable when Valorant can do it, and other games probably also. If anyone on Earth can do it, I've said this before, so can Activision. They have the money. They just don't give a fuck. So that's been a disaster.
Yeah, it's like I haven't played ranked, I don't think at all this season, but every single person I watch when they queue ranked, Biffle, when you're watching Spam Gola, whoever it is you watch, they'll always be talking about, oh yeah, there's another cheater. This guy's cheating. Like one time I was watching Biffle the first week of the season, and they ran into a guy cheating, and I think they said that was number 3 or 4 on the day so far, and he had been live for like literally less than 2 hours, and they had seen 3 or 4 people cheating in ranked play already, which is essentially every single match in ranked play. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, it's insane.
It is crazy, but yeah, it doesn't happen to me, so it's not an issue, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, surely. Yeah,
I don't see it every day, so it's not a problem. Idiot.
Yeah,
Jake, an idiot.
Idiot, shitter, fuck.
But anyways, yeah, so that's a problem for sure. Server issues, though, it really is like a lot of people say, where the servers get a lot worse at night. It must be when more players are getting off work and getting online. Because even last week when there was a random night where I tried playing random fills for like less than an hour. Every single lobby, it was getting that weird stutter again, where when they first introduced 120 players this year, there was like a random stutter until players died in the first few minutes. That's what every single game felt like when you play at night. And that happens all the time. So I really think playing in the morning, you actually just basically don't run into server issues.
That would explain why I don't really see them that much, yeah.
Because you still hear people talk about server issues all the time. In fact, somebody, Huskers or some big account had tweeted last week saying like, it's crazy how bad the servers are in this game. And it like, once it hits a certain time at night, they just fall apart. And it's just bad every single night. And I guess they're always that way, but we don't play at night, so we don't really run into it. But actually, no, it doesn't happen to us, so never mind. It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
people are just fucking complaining.
Actually. The thing is, like most human beings that age past the age of 2 or 3 years old, we have this concept called object permanence. So even if we haven't literally seen it or are experiencing it right now ourselves, we can believe that it's happening to other people when they say it. Yeah. So I've received that So all right, that's it. So overall verdict though, MW3 a year in review, W. Game was really good this year and really fun. Despite all of the things we just said about the mixed bag and the bad, don't forget about the good. And like we also always say when we review anything, we're always going to have fewer things to say in the good category that are good things because frankly, we take them for granted. Like, man, I don't know. Yeah, I can't even think of an example, but there are a lot of things we take for granted that we just expect to work well that do work well. And that's, like always, the case here. I mean, a lot of things that are good have gone unsaid because when something is working well or working as intended, you don't notice it, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know? Overall, this was a great game that we had a lot of fun with. It's one of the best games in the last 5 years overall, honestly. Looking at it from multiplayer, Warzone integration, this has been a really, really fun game. It was a really good game. Yeah.
There's just a ton of little things that they've improved on. But yeah, if it's like, we've talked about those in the season updates. If we were to go through all of that now, there would be way too many things to say. It'd be a 10-hour long podcast.
And it would be uninteresting, yeah.
There's a lot of little things. Like I think somebody in chat, it was Jakin earlier, had said like how they improved like recons and stuff. Because I think was it early in this game or was it MW2? You would like grab a recon, grab a scavenger. Like the scavs would start 500 meters away. Remember when it was doing that? So they were useless. So people didn't do them at all. So they fixed a lot of little things like that. A lot of stuff got better. Another downside, by the way, the vehicles still suck. They still never made those good.
That's true. That's a good point.
Helicopters still suck. But yeah, there are a lot of little things. But we hit some of the main ones in our eyes. Most of the main ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, overall, on the video game scale, comparing this game to all other video games, I would give this game like a 9 out of 10. On the Call of Duty scale, I would give it an 8 out of 10. I think this was a really good game, even by Call of Duty standards.
I think it was too, yeah.
Which I hold to a higher standard, obviously. It was really fun, and we both had a lot of fun with it. And we were, unlike last year... It's been a good year
for the game.
It's been a good year, yeah. It's, by and large, it's been a good year. Had some problems, it always will, but it was a great game, so...
Yeah.
That's it!
It's a really good game this year.
WMW3, we'll see what BO6 brings. But, you know, honestly, kind of with Tanner, I'm scared. But we'll see in 12 days.
I'm a little scared, yeah.
Stay humble.
Stay humble.